Hey guys, I just wanted to upload my review of season of Agent Carter, season 1, episode 4. Now, this episode has flashbacks for Peggy Carter and Whitney Frost, the latter of who we found out grew up in Broxton, Oklahoma, which, if any of you guys read the comics, before the second Secret Wars is where Asgard was remade and was floating over after the events of Ragnarok in the comic books, and before it was destroyed in the Siege miniseries. But it's also just a little mythology gag, just Easter egg. It turns out that she grew up in an abusive home. In this abusive home, her mother treated her like crap, and was spending more time with some sleazy boyfriend who both of them cared little for their scientific genius. For a scientific genius, I mean, she was able to repair their able to repair their radio, and was like working on all these math, I guess, like not equations, but like equations and whatnot, and making her own design, and drawing her own like designs for, I guess, stuff she wanted to build. And her mom even blames Whitney for why, known as Agnes at the time, for why the mom's boyfriend eventually leaves, and that in the world they're living in, that looks are the only thing anybody's ever going to care about. So it also a little bit of a flash forward to when Agnes goes to the theater and she's discovered by a talent agent and gives her the name Whitney Frost, and just like her mother, he makes the comments like, you should smile, why don't you should smile more. You're makes you more approachable and likable, and he comes up as kind of creepy, like almost like coming on to her and kind of violating her personal space. But she does give her the advice that, in Hollywood you can pretend to be anybody you want, which is how she comes up with the idea of going, not only being a Hollywood actress, but also working as a scientific genius, working behind this scientific, working on the Dark Force, without any suspicion, anybody suspecting of any like kind of illicit activities going on with her and Chadwick. And also flashbacks for Peggy Carter features how, she's playing with her older brother, and they're slaying dragons, and her mom chastising her about not being, you got to learn how to be a proper lady, and licking her thumb to like wipe the spit off her face. And this is also funny how it flashes forward to how it's like she just acts like one of the guys. She's like eating a sandwich, and with the mayonnaise dripping on her mouth, and it drips down onto Mr. Wilkes' scientific nose, and he just like wipes some of it off. And at first you give me the idea that, so it's like she's, even back then, it's like she was basically this strong-willed woman who was able to, stick to her guns even in this really sexist world, or even more sexist back then. But then you also find out like other moments in her life where she was working as a code breaker, and she was originally engaged, but her boss tells her that she's also gotten a job offer to work as the Strategic Operations Excellence, which is a British World War organization responsible for like espionage and whatnot. And she's to be trained as an agent, and she feels like that she's not cut out for this, and she has to talk with her husband about it. And then during an engagement party between Peggy, Michael, Peggy's brother, and Peggy's fiance, it turns out that she was somebody who, that Michael was the one who recommended her for the program, because he still thinks of her as the woman who always craved adventure. And apparently she's just she didn't really stick to her and she just kind of like went along to get along, and took her mom's advice to heart to be more ladylike, just to fit in. And fit in, and Michael was saying, and Peggy was upset about, not not approving of her fiance, and also shocked at the same time about that Michael's the one who made the recommendation for her, and it's like, and Michael's the one who's like, stop pretending to be something that you're not. And it's not until you find out that her brother was killed in action that it convinces her to take the job, and she puts her engagement ring on her drawer and leaves her fiance, which is really disappointing because of the fact that it's like, you think she's this like strong-willed woman who already stuck to her guns, and is basically saying, oh, she's doing this to honor her memory, but basically her entire arc of becoming who she is was just because of a man. So that was a bit of a letdown, as opposed to Whitney Frost, who just was able to just do it of her own free will, was able to, I guess, do this whole hiding in plain sight, or pretend to be something she's not, even though just to go along to get along, even though she still is able to like carry out her goals behind the scenes. Just use her whole like actress thing going along to get along as a cover. So that was a little disappointing to see. But in present day, Jarvis and Peggy are tracking down Mr. Hunt, Chadwick and Frost's bodyguard, and they realize that with the bandaged hand that he was the one that he was sent to assassinate Peggy at Stark's home. So they follow him, and they make this joke, and there's this ongoing joke about how they use he brought tranquilizers to take down koalas, and she says something about, but Peggy says, please tell me you don't use that on the flamingo. And Jarvis says, no, koalas. They're more vicious than, he says something like, they're more vicious than you think. And then she tries using the tranquilizer gun on Hunt, which doesn't work, and so she has to use another tranquilizer dart. They put him in the trunk. That still doesn't work, so she has to knock him out with the butt of the gun, with the rifle. And then I guess she accidentally shoots Jarvis, and that one dart knocks him unconscious. And you can just see when they're driving over to see Sousa, that his face is planted against the wall, and then Peggy does a terrible job of just lying about what's going on, and because Sousa hears Hunt banging on the trunk door and asking somebody to help him, and so once they're on the same page, Peggy and Sousa decide to interrogate Hunt, and Peggy injects him with a strain of malaria that's supposed to kill him within minutes. But then Sousa just finds out it's just some mutated form of a cold. That's kind of a bluff. It's just some mutated form of a cold by Stark. And that's how they learn about, and that if he doesn't talk, that she won't get the antidote. That Hunt will get the antidote, and so, that's when Hunt talks about the Council of Nine and their involvement with the Arena Club, and how they've been involved in things like the assassination of President McKinley and the stock market crash of '29. And so, even though they were able to get a warrant to go search the Arena Club and learn more about the Council of Nine, it turns out they have influence in the DA's office, and which is why Masters comes down and decides to audit the SSSR just to halt the investigation, and makes this veiled threat about Peggy, saying that even if your career survives, that the fate of her allies is still up in the air. But she's eventually able to, I guess, even though they eventually create this ruse, but let him go and place a listening device on Hunt, and go to, and basically just goes back to the Frost and Chadwick's mansion, and mentions how he needs protection from him, or else he'll also tell the whole world about, about what they're involved in, and because Frost has been testing her powers to devour people on rats, and she realizes sort of like, when she's hurt, or I guess like adrenaline and what's trigger her powers or something. They didn't really explain it. I guess when she's like is bitten by a rat, she's able to devour it, or when she's like in a state of anxiety, upset, or in a state of anxious, she's able to activate her powers. So she uses it on Hunt just to get him to shut him up, and the wound where the zero matter is, it starts to like grow larger, and Chadwick's horrified and about what his wife's become. But also like another side storyline is that Mr. Wilkes is like, he's seeing visions of like when he's working with, I guess, Jarvis on drawing formulas on a whiteboard. He's asking Jarvis to draw formulas on a whiteboard since he's still intangible. He's seeing like this like black hole, this like crack of like almost like interdimensional travel, and he tells Peggy he feels like he's getting sucked in further and further, and it feels like it's getting harder to stay in our plane of existence. So overall, it's still another pretty good episode. I mean, again, the only downside is Peggy's backstory, but I guess I could say it was pretty. I mean, it was like I said, other than that, another pretty solid episode, and giving you more insight into the least villain of the week, or at least the main villain, Whitney Frost. So what do you guys think of the episode? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.